If you've been trying to lower your blood pressure naturally and feeling like nothing is actually working, stay right here. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 mistakes that keep blood pressure stubbornly high, even when you're doing everything right. I'm Dr. Mandy Thomas. Every week, I sit across from senior patients who are eating better, cutting salt, walking more, taking supplements, and their blood pressure stays stubbornly high or drops a little and creeps right back up. That cycle creates something dangerous beyond just the numbers. It creates frustration, self-blame, and anxiety. And ironically, all of those emotions make blood pressure worse. These aren't rare errors. These are patterns my own senior patients repeat without realizing they're working against themselves. By the end, you'll understand exactly why your efforts might not be paying off and what to shift right now. Drop a comment right now. Which of these 5 do you think is most common? Take a guess before we get there. Mistake 1. Believing blood pressure is purely a diet problem. This is the most widespread misunderstanding I encounter as a physician. The cultural story goes, too much salt raises blood pressure, cut the salt, blood pressure comes down. If only it were that simple. Blood pressure is not a dietary issue. It's a whole body regulation issue. Think about what actually controls your blood pressure, your blood vessels and how elastic or stiff they are, your kidneys managing fluid and sodium balance, your hormonal system, cortisol, adrenaline, your autonomic nervous system, operating largely below conscious awareness, and your sleep patterns, which influence almost every one of those systems. Diet is one input into that complex system, but not the only one, and in many seniors, not even the primary one. I have patients who eat better than I do. Clean whole foods, careful with sodium, minimal processing, and their blood pressure is still elevated. Why? Because they're sleeping 5 hours a night. Or their nervous system has been in overdrive for so long it's forgotten how to downshift. Diet alone cannot compensate for those variables. Here's the ironic trap. When seniors believe food is the entire solution, they become hyper-vigilant about every meal. Guilt after eating out, anxiety in social situations, fear of certain foods. All of that worry adds psychological stress, which keeps the very hormones elevated that raise blood pressure. Trying too hard to eat perfectly creates the stress that keeps your numbers high. Use diet as one meaningful component. Prioritize whole foods, lean proteins, potassium-rich vegetables, and fruits. Let diet do its part. Just don't ask it to do the whole job alone. And mistake 2 is even more surprising because it has nothing to do with food at all. Mistake 2. Ignoring the nervous system. This is the most underappreciated factor in blood pressure management, particularly for seniors. On screen, fight or flight versus rest and digest graphic. Your nervous system has 2 primary operating modes: fight or flight, where your heart pumps harder, blood vessels constrict, and blood pressure rises, and rest and digest, where your heart rate settles, blood vessels dilate, and blood pressure naturally decreases. For many seniors managing chronic stress, fight or flight becomes the default setting. The body stops distinguishing between actual emergencies and the stress of daily life. Here's what I mean very seriously. You cannot out-diet a chronically stressed nervous system. You can eat perfectly. You can take every supplement available. But if your nervous system is constantly running hot, your blood pressure will reflect that. Medications will be less effective. Numbers will spike with minor triggers. What actually helps isn't complicated, but it requires consistency. Slow, controlled breathing with a longer exhale than inhale directly activates the parasympathetic system and can produce measurable blood pressure drops in minutes. Consistent sleep timing matters enormously. Gentle daily movement helps. And building quiet moments into your day. Moments where you're not stimulated, not scrolling, not rushing. Those spaces matter more than most seniors realize. Real blood pressure improvement often begins not in the kitchen, but in the nervous system. I want to pause here. If you're over 60 and want clear, science-based heart health information every week, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. And share this today with a senior you care about who's been frustrated trying to manage their blood pressure. Now let's get to mistakes 3, 4, and 5. Mistake 3 is where many well-intentioned seniors accidentally make their blood pressure worse. Mistake 3. Doing the wrong kind of exercise. Exercise is supposed to be good for you, and it is. The problem is the assumption that more intensity always equals more benefit, especially as we get older. I regularly see senior patients who've adopted intense workout routines because they heard exercise lowers blood pressure. They're pushing hard, feeling exhausted, and their numbers aren't moving. In some cases, they're going up. Here's the physiology. Intense exercise elevates stress hormones. That's normal, and the benefit comes during recovery when those hormones subside. But that recovery depends heavily on sleep quality and overall stress load. After 60, the recovery window gets longer, and the hormonal response to intense exertion is more pronounced. If someone is already chronically stressed or sleep-deprived, adding intense physical stress on top keeps the body in an elevated stress state rather than returning to baseline. What we want from exercise and blood pressure management is to teach the body calm, not to exhaust it. The most effective approaches for seniors include steady-state walking, gentle resistance training, and isometric exercises, which have a surprisingly strong evidence base for blood pressure reduction, specifically in older adults. A 20-minute walk every day will do more for your blood pressure than 3 brutal gym sessions per week that leave you depleted. Mistake 4 is one that most seniors have never had explained to them, and it creates a vicious cycle. Mistake 4, obsessing over individual readings. I understand the impulse completely. You have a condition that puts you at risk. You have a device that measures it, so of course you monitor closely. But for many seniors, this well-intentioned habit becomes a significant source of anxiety, and that anxiety directly worsens the thing they're trying to fix. On screen, monitoring anxiety cycle graphic. Here's how it typically goes. A senior checks their pressure in the morning. It's elevated. They check again an hour later, hoping for better, same or higher. Now they're worried. After lunch, still high. Before bed, in a state of stress, predictably elevated. They wake up anxious, check immediately before sitting quietly, and the number is high. The whole cycle restarts. What's happening physiologically? Each check comes loaded with anticipatory anxiety. The worry about what the number will be activates the stress response, releases adrenaline, and raises blood pressure before you even see the reading. You're using your monitor to repeatedly stress test yourself, and the results reflect that stress, not your actual baseline. Blood pressure is designed to fluctuate. A single high reading tells you almost nothing meaningful. What matters is the trend over time. The practical shift: check twice daily at consistent times, about 20 minutes after waking and right before bed. Sit quietly for 5 minutes before each check. Take 2 readings and record the lower. Track over 7 to 14 days and look at the pattern. That data is genuinely useful. Random checks throughout the day in varying emotional states are mostly noise that creates stress. And mistake 5 is the one that keeps more seniors stuck than any other. Mistake 5, trying to change everything at once. People motivated to lower their blood pressure naturally tend to be thorough. When they decide to make changes, they go all in. Diet overhaul, new exercise routine, better sleep, meditation app, supplements, phone reminders, all in the same week. I've watched this play out dozens of times. For 2 to 3 weeks, motivation is high. Then life happens. Work gets busy, sleep gets disrupted, one skipped workout leads to guilt, guilt leads to stress, stress leads to more skipping. Within a month, most habits have dissolved, and the senior is back where they started, now with the added burden of feeling like they failed. They didn't fail. The system failed them. The human brain and body don't adapt well to radical simultaneous change. Each new habit requires mental bandwidth. When you try to establish 6 or 7 at once, none of them get the focused attention needed to become automatic. And rapid, chaotic change is itself a physiological stressor. the body experiences instability, activates stress responses, and blood pressure stays elevated. The approach that actually works: choose one small habit, just one. 5 minutes of slow breathing each morning, a consistent bedtime, a single daily walk. Practice that one habit until it feels natural, usually 2 to 4 weeks, then add something else. Compounding consistent small habits is how blood pressure actually comes down and stays down. Here's what ties all 5 of these mistakes together, and why they're especially impactful in seniors. After 60, arterial stiffness increases naturally. The stress response becomes more pronounced with more significant cardiovascular effects from the same stressor. Recovery from both physical and emotional stress takes longer. The margin for error is smaller. This isn't discouraging, it's clarifying. The interventions that matter most, calming the nervous system, prioritizing sleep, choosing sustainable over intense exercise, managing the psychological relationship with monitoring, and building habits one at a time, produce a proportionally larger benefit in older adults. Your biology is more sensitive to stress, yes, but it's equally more responsive to genuine calm and consistency. That's where the leverage is. Here's your action step for today. Out of these 5 mistakes, identify the one that resonates most strongly with your experience right now. Pick that one and start there. Not all 5, just one. What small, specific daily action can you take beginning tomorrow to address it? Write it down, commit to it for 2 weeks, then see what happens to your trend. I've put together a free blood pressure reset checklist, a 1-page printable that shows the exact habit sequence I use with senior patients to stabilize blood pressure naturally, including the monitoring protocol and the nervous system tools that matter most. Many patients print it and refer back to it every week. The link is in the description, originally created for my clinic and available here for now. Drop a comment below. Which of these 5 mistakes hit closest to home for you? I read every one, and your answer helps other seniors watching this realize they're not alone in this. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with a senior you care about who's been doing everything right and still not seeing results. They might be making one of these 5 mistakes right now without knowing it. Next video, the 5 supplements with the strongest clinical evidence for blood pressure reduction. Exactly how they work, what the research actually shows, and how to use them effectively alongside lifestyle changes. I'll see you there. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Never stop or adjust blood pressure medication without consulting your healthcare provider first.